Hey team, welcome to another episode of the Rugby League Lounge Weekly Show. And once again, I am joined by Joel from League of Inches. How you going, my friend?
Yeah, good mate. Another week of footy just been and a few smashings and team unfortunately lost. But apart from that, yeah, I'm great.
Yeah, that's the attitude, mate. That's the attitude. And yeah, we're heading into kind of, a round with obviously 4 games as we lead into the dead rubber that is Origin 3. And there's a few little talking points, a few little negative things that have been kind of going around, to be fair. So we just thought this might be a good chance to do something a little bit different, a bit of a reflection on the season so far, and maybe some guys that haven't really probably got the attention that maybe they deserve. And we're going to call the segment, we've brought 5 players to the table each about guys that have been kind of underappreciated this season. I've kind of looked at it in the lens like I don't think they've got, the praise deserved from the public in general, and I believe their input has been very valuable to their team success. Or even if their team hasn't been succeeding, it's definitely not because of their efforts. So yeah, I think we're going to just start off with, and you can look at it. I've got a couple players higher up, and I've got some players, yeah, not so. So, Joel, you can get us started, mate. Who's someone that you think has gone underappreciated this season?
Look, I'm going to start with a. It's hard to say he's been underappreciated, but one that I did mention last week, obviously Jerome Luai. It's a weird one to say because he did play Origin, but I think that he's been underappreciated because Cleary's stolen the limelight, and I think Turbo's up there as well. But I just think Lua the last year and a half, probably 2 years, has been an absolute freak, and a lot of their run has been because of what he does and the energy he provides the team, which on and off the field you can't underestimate how much that affects the playing group. Having that guy that is always up and bringing the energy to the group, which I think is massive these days. And on the field, he's just an absolute talent. He's so dangerous, good footwork, great ball skills. Just one of those players who I feel like has now stood up to the top 5 players in the comp, but I don't think he's appreciated for that. I don't think many people think of it or just probably put Cleary obviously ahead, understandably, but tell you what, he's a lot closer to Cleary than a lot of people give him credit for.
Yeah, no, I think you got a fair point, and I've been on the record saying I think I said it to you. I thought Luai might experience a down year, just in the sense that maybe not a down year, but everybody is prepared for him now. He kind of probably caught a few teams off by surprise. But yeah, he come out the gates probably the first 6 rounds, I believe. He was probably the form player of the comp. Like I think Cleary suffered some time away. I remember against the Storm he didn't play, and there was a game against the Raiders in particular, and it was just like wow. And you just see his Origin case was just growing and growing. And even though Cleary's gone, like you said, that's probably why he's been underappreciated. It's a big reason. It's because Nathan Cleary has putting a run to form together that really has him considered as the best player in the competition, along with Turbo in my eyes. So yeah, he has been great. He's a guy that I kind of, he does rub a bit the wrong way being a Queenslander, been a Melbourne Storm fan, but hey, credit to him. He's, you got to be able to back up the talk, and he's been able to do that. And yeah, I think and I'll lead on to my one. Let's look at another Origin half, and I was actually gonna finish with this one, but might as well get to it. Now, obviously, we know about Turbo. Turbo's been great, and those first 4 or 5 rounds for Manly were horrendous. We're talking about them being probably the one team, arguably the top team to topple Penrith and Melbourne realistically. At the start of the season, man, they were fighting for the wooden spoon, and even imagining Turbo and the team, I didn't think they were going to be what they are today, let alone the top 8 team. But your Turbo come back, and obviously he's rejuvenated everyone. I think their team everyone has kind of been rated accordingly. Everyone's talked about how everyone's got better, but a guy that's still been kind of just, because he's got this perception about him. And obviously at the moment, he's not everyone's favourite player. And that's Daly Cherry Evans. I think we're still, and I know you're a person that, yes, doesn't rate Daly Cherry Evans. And I thought, do I bring it up? But, man, you got to credit to him. Like, I think he leads the league in 40-20s. He is able to utilise Tommy Turbo. He, like others, he's got a sense of energy with him being there. He's able to create plays still. And, yeah, I think he needs to be credited a lot about, we can question him being a leader for Queensland, but being a leader for Manly still has to be credited. Their win against North Queensland after he'd been part of that absolute smashing the Blues handed them, comes back, no Turbo, and they win they win by about 40 points, I believe. So, yeah, he's still proving why he is considered as one of the top halfbacks in the game. And I think he's been underappreciated in the sense that, I think a lot of people probably think he is a little, that maybe not deserve the high honours that, he probably shouldn't be in the conversation for the Australian halfback at the moment. But still got to give credit where credit is due. I don't think he has got enough credit for how he has played since Turbo's been back. I'm very interested to know your thoughts on that as an underappreciated player of the season.
I don't really know what to say.
I knew I'd catch you.
I think he's the total opposite, but I'm trying to go with your flow here and give you something to go off. But
you can back against it. You can say why you don't believe. You can say that he has been overrated, and this is why.
I'll give you one thing. I think if you put Luke Brooks in the Manly side at the moment with Turbo going the way he's going, Luke Brooks would be talked about as a potential New South Wales halfback. That's how influential Turbo has been. And you mentioned it yourself. You said the start of the season, Manly were busted and the Turbo wasn't there, but Cherry Evans was still there. I feel like he's been pretty poor origin-wise as well. And that, again, has been away from the star player of Turbo. So I feel like, they had that one game against the Cowboys, which I think the Cowboys have been very hot and cold. When they're cold, they're absolutely disgraceful. But I think when he hasn't had that superstar with him to pull him through, he has pretty much let the board down for this isn't just for this year either. I've watched Cherry Evans pretty closely, and I don't know. I just don't think. I think the big thing with Cherry Evans, and it's probably unfair to pick him off this, but you have to these days, is the price tag he's on. So you're probably expecting him to be the Turbo of the team, but it's the opposite. So Turbo's still on good money, but he's not on the Cherry Evans dollars at the moment. And I think most people out there would be thinking, well, I think Turbo should be on that money that DCE's on. But look, I can respect where you're coming from with it. He's sort of just the ball player, though, for mine. He's just sort of giving the ball to Turbo whenever he wants, and Turbo's the main guy. But
he's done that. Like, I still think that is a lot harder than it looks, in the sense that
I think me or you could do it at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. No, there was a few little plays. I know it's against the Dogs, but I've seen it most weeks where it's just a couple balls where it's actually he's picked out a clear mismatch where it's like, oh, hang on, and it wasn't one of those just giving goes. I felt like he's engaged the line quite well, and I just feel like he is playing with a level of confidence. And when Turbo wasn't there to back you to kind of fight against what you said before, like him being busted that first week, you do need a roll on. You do need someone helping you out. You need, and Turbo has been a magic man, and maybe this might just be, just kind of that confidence that Cherry Evans needed. But and maybe we put him. Obviously, we don't give him as much credit because we expect him to be able to deliver whenever, like no matter the circumstances, which is probably fair. But he's not that type of player. I don't think he's I think, even though, yes, we say he's like a top 2, top 3 halfback or top 5, whatever, I don't think the depth at halfback position is great. And obviously we know the huge gap between him and Cleary. So, it's hard marking up against other players. But, I just feel like I also think he's just getting a lot of negativity as well. So, Yeah, he is a big reason why they are fifth, but we all know the biggest reason, and that is Tommy Turbo. We spent a lot on Cherry Evans. I knew that was going to be a debatable one, as we've kind of had discussions about him in the past. But yeah, we'll lead into your next one, man. Who you got?
I'm going to go a hooker. I'm going to go Reed Marnie for Para, and I just think overall for that team, he's very much underappreciated in terms of everyone always talks about Dutho, Sevo, Fergo when he was there, Marnie. Sorry, not Marnie, Moses, Dill Brown. These are the sorts of players that always get the raps when we win. But this bloke does nothing but the hard stuff. He is always up around the 50 tackles a game, touches it, gets to dummy half pretty much every time. I've seen other hookers for other teams be a bit lazy in that department, but he's always sort of thereabouts. And obviously, he was before the injury close to that Origin call up with Grant being out. I really think he's up there in. Harry Grant's number one. I'd probably say he's arguably number two. I think Cook's form has been a bit down. So I think he's pretty underappreciated at the moment. I just think overall, he's really one of those players you want doing the hard stuff that not many people notice.
Oh, his improvement's been awesome. And not that he was great last year, don't get me wrong, but his ability to gauge the ruck and create havoc, he's really become a genuine playmaker. Because he reminded me a lot of Jake Friend, and Jake Friend took a while to kind of, become like a playmaker rather than someone that just delivered the ball. And I'll go off topic shortly with Jake Friend, I should say. And I felt like 2019 was the season he got to that level, but then suffered the injury. I actually talked about it in a recent post. But anyhow, why it's so impressive. Reed's been able to do that, in his second full season at hooker. I completely agree. And people will look at that comment that you made, like, oh, really the second best hooker. And I don't agree. Like, if I had to dot down, I don't think he'd end up number two. But I get what you're saying. Also, because I think Cook just looks unbelievable when the 4-pack's rolling. Like, he is unstoppable. But when his team's on the back foot or where it's a bit of a grind, he can struggle. And because he's not like a genuine playmaker, that's why I believe where Reed Mahoney is able to kind of get his team back on the front foot, make stuff happen, depending on what, no matter what his 4-pack is doing. So, I think I understand where you're coming from. And Kyle Salkin, he's a good little playmaker as well, but he's someone that also benefits a lot from the forward pack rolling. And I think he's been your MVP this year when he's been there. Papa Lee, he's been great. But anything else to finish off with Reed, or?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think you've covered it all.
Just a workhorse in both ends.
He's just a worker. I think he's going to make a massive improvement for the run home for us. And if he plays, we probably beat the Panthers on the weekend. He's just about
to make that same comment. Obviously, you could say if they had nothing clear, that might have been yours. But hey, we can avoid that. My next player, let's go for another guy that's probably a huge part of their heart and soul of the team, and someone that I've always been real hesitant about. We put him as one of the top players in his position time and time again, but I never know because he's got he's a rocks and diamonds player, and that's Jared Hargraves. And this year, I think he's really taken a maturing role. Obviously, he's kind of been forced into it somewhat. I think over the years, he has got better. You see it developing. This year, I think it's really come to fruition and has been not just been a leader, but he's still been able to be a damager as well. It seems to always been racking up near 200 meters. When the Roosters is winning, he's always in the debate as the player of the game, especially when, not that Teddy's been bad, not for any stretch, he's been great, but he hasn't been the standout Teddy season, and they've still been able to somehow make do with the injuries they've had. He's a huge reason because of it. Look, last weekend, he probably wasn't as greatest, had a few little blues, but you can just see he's just controlled. And I think his leadership has been a huge part of the Roosters, staying in the hunt this season. What are your thoughts on Jared Hargraves this year?
I've been really impressed. To be honest, when they had this new rule change, I thought he'd be one of the first that was in trouble and probably would have been pushed out of the game with how he plays the game, really. up there, intimidating. I thought high shots galore. He's going to be done. He's just going to have too much suspensions, but he's been able to control it. With all the amount of injuries and the players lost, so your corners, friend, etc. A lot of leadership were gone, and he's probably taken it upon himself and gone, you know what, I need to be that guy now. That's me in this side. Been around the club long enough now to know what it's all about, and I've just been really impressed with him. You've said it before. There's been some games where I've never seen this before, but he's played 80, and because they've needed him to, and they were even without their other prop, Takiyaho, for a while as well, and he's just never said no to anything. He just picks it up, goes, yep, no worries. And at the moment, let's not forget, it's probably the hardest for forwards to play at the moment, 80 minutes. It's crazy speeds out there. They would be burning their lungs after 20 minutes, and he's going for 80 straight as a prop forward who normally doesn't really play that. I've just been really, really impressed with him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, same here. And he's just one of those guys that has rubbed me the wrong way in the past. So I'm always happy to see when that kind of narrative shifts. Especially when it gets later on in their career and it's benefiting not just himself but the team. So let's roll into your third person, mate. Who you've got?
The third one might be an interesting one for a lot of people. This club isn't doing too well at the moment, but it's a player that I think if you put him in one of the top 4 sides, he would be up there as spoken about as one of the real good backline players. And I've gone for Herbie Farnworth for the Broncos as centre. I really actually like watching him play, and I feel sorry because we all know if your forwards are getting bashed, which apart from Payne Haas, most weeks the Broncos are, the backline can't do anything. But he often will just create a little bit of something or a half break or a break. And I've just always thought, look, if I could see him in a Panthers jersey, a Storm jersey, a Para jersey, or even the Souths and that backline that they've got, it would be an absolute, spoken about as one of the superstars of the game, so to speak. And he's only young, which is good. But I just think he's really underrated. Not many people talk about him in high up anyway, obviously because the Broncos aren't doing well. But as I said, I do enjoy watching. Out of the Broncos games that put me to sleep basically most weeks, he's one of the players that actually I enjoy watching and I like to see what he's got because I always feel like he's got something up his sleeve.
Yeah, no, he was one of the guys that was on my kind of little short list. Didn't quite make the top 5, but been really impressed with the ability for him to kind of make things, from himself and really bring a spark to a dull looking Broncos team at time that does definitely, as we all know, hasn't been able to fire. Obviously we talk about Tony Staggs and we're all waiting for him, but look, I don't know where Tony's going to end up next year, if he's going to be 6 next to Reynolds or he's going to be a centre. But if it is a centre, if it's centre where it is, that's a great centre pairing, to be sure. To have two threatening guys on the edge, on both edges, is definitely going to be something. And Young as well, going to be able to build into that. Yeah, no, I like him as well. And is he eligible for? He's English, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's English. I think they had him last year or the year before when they could play internationals, I'm pretty sure. So, I think you're right there.
Yeah. And that probably leads in brilliantly with mine, an Englishman, Luke Thompson. Luke Thompson. I think for me, probably the best way to sum this up is he's been the best player on the Wooden Spoon team. I think he has been great. I remember thinking at the start of this year he was facing that suspension. I believe was an eye gouge or a bite. One of the two. I think actually might be getting the bite mixed up with his fellow Pommy, James Graham back in the day. Might have been a gouge, but he's been tremendous. He gets through a lot of work. He's very efficient. I was just looking up some stats before. I think he makes I think it's 97% of his tackles, and he's been up in he kind of plays random amount of minutes sometimes, but he can crank out about 60, 70 minutes. He gets through a truckload of work, about 140 meters a game. Yeah, and he just always seems like he's involved. It's not like he's got like a unpredictable game. He's not going to try to beat you off a step or offload, but man, he's consistent. And I was thinking about the game, and a game particularly that he played outstanding, and I saw his stats. I think it was about his average, where Josh Jackson had a great game as well. But who stood out that game was Jeremy Marshall-King. Jeremy Marshall-King, look, I don't rate him very, very highly, but look, they haven't had much options from the hooker position this role, and at least he was kind of running, engaged in the line. And why I bring that up is if you've got a hooker that's actually taking advantage of what Luke Thompson and his other forwards are doing, it's going to be more notable. And yeah, I think everybody's been trying to put like the likes of Brandon Smith with the Bulldogs, because it's pretty, they need a bit, but they've got some players coming in, obviously Burton, but they do need a dummy half. And I think once they get that dummy half, I think you'll start to realize that Luke Thompson has been a pretty good signing for the Dogs. Is there any? Yeah, there's no like, and just want to finish. There's no like spectacular highlights that stand out for Luke Thompson, but he's just always there and he does his role. And I think he's a traditional prop, but he's like the new style traditional prop. He's fit, he's still powerful, but he can do it consistently and get his team over the front foot. Any takeaways from the Englishman?
He's probably the only Dogs player at the moment that I actually really enjoy watching, and maybe that's because I have him in my Supercoach team. But I think he does a mountain of work, and he's just, as you said, he's one of those guys that you'd want to get down in the trenches with. He's that old style prop, but with really good footwork now, like as in speed work, and he's pretty quick for a prop, and he's got a good motor. We just talked about it before with Rhea Hargraves, but he's another one that, if required, he can actually play some pretty big minutes, which this day and age, to get your bench up, especially have a HIA or two, you really need in your forwards, and he brings that. And look, if the Dogs can get one or two more clones of him, they'd be looking really good, because they need to make sure they fix up that forwards that they've got. And he's the one man that I'd be really, if I was a Dogs fan or a player, I'd be wanting to put my game around him. I just think he's class.
Yeah, class is a good way to sum him up, actually. And yeah, how about your up to your fourth one?
Yeah, got my fourth. And look, it might be a little bit controversial. Again, a guy who is playing reps at the moment, but for mine, I don't think he gets the raps he deserves. And that's a guy at your team, Christian Welsh. So
hey.
I think he's an absolute star forward. I know he's there. Let's just start with the Melbourne side of things. He's obviously got the New Zealand captain in Jesse Bromwich there. He's got Kafusi, he's got Finucane, he's got all these players get talked about. Everyone's talking about Finucane at the moment, obviously, because he's off contract and how well he trains and just how he is as a person. I think Welsh is in the same category with this, the ultimate professional. Or what was it, about a year and a half ago, he had a bad leg injury. And I think it was Parramatta that were going to sign him, and they didn't because of it. And they said, no, he's going to take too long to recover. And when he does come back, he's not going to be anywhere near the player that he was. And I'll tell you what, I wish we did, because he's exactly the type of player you need at your club. Training, how he is as a person. On the field, he doesn't stop. He's similar to Luke Thompson, but a bit better in my eyes, in terms of he just does the hard yards. He doesn't stop. If we're going to take us to the Queensland level as well, and rep level, that we did a video last week about who you'd have in your team for New South Wales and Queenslanders. He'd be my first Queenslander I'll pick. I just think he even makes it into that forward pack at the moment for the Blues. That's how much I rate him. I would have him definitely as either the starting or on the bench as the prop rotation. And I just think he's a star. He's one of the best forwards in the game for mine. Really just hard-nosed, old school. If it's muddy out there, he doesn't care. He'll just get in there, do his thing. Would love to know how you feel about him, because obviously he's one of your players.
You summed it up pretty well, man, to be fair. The White Rhino, one of few. And like, basically, probably the best way to sum him up is he's one of those guys you think, yep, we're kind of talking about we're going to pick our front rowers for the Australian team, and you just look at, just by assumptions, just looking at the athletes, you think Oh, Junior Paulo, scary looking man. Safidi, Payne Haas, even Papali'i, Christian Welch. Then you watch him play, and you're like, no, he has to be in there. He just has to be in there. He just does his role and does it. It somehow gives you more than what his role is at times. Like he's able to brilliant offload and give that ball early as well. And on this is not my next guy, but I'll just lead into because I was thinking about putting a Storm player in, but hoping you did. I just want to talk about Tui Kamikamifa.
It was close. I was tossing up between the two, to be honest.
He is extremely underrated. Now, he is one of those players that potentially is within the Storm system. That could happen. But man, he is getting for a lot of work. I mean, when he first started, I didn't think he ran with much intent, and it was kind of one of those things. I looked at him and I thought, I don't think he's really, fully utilizing what he's got. But he's been able to play in the system brilliantly. He's one of those guys you could easily think could have not worked out in today's game. But yeah, I was looking up decoy runs, average, because I was just having a look at the props, and he popped up in the top 10 for the most decoy runs average in a game. And I thought that was quite impressive. It just shows you all those little things that you just probably take for granted in the game. And I think it just, like I mentioned, it does show a lot of the Melbourne Storm system. Not to give my club a pat on the back anymore, but we'll move on.
To say that.
Yeah.
I was about to say that just sums up the Storm. They just do all those little things that, to be honest, most fans of the game, no offense, don't even look at and don't notice, and they just care about it. Kamikamica runs over 3 blokes, but the fact that he's doing that just shows if you got more people running off the ball, the more people it's harder to defend, and it all helped in the end.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing up Welch, because it allowed me to transition to him well, because I just feel like he just doesn't. Yeah. Because there's so many, every other player is a rep player that he really does get pushed aside a bit. So I'll get on to a rep player, another one. But we talk about this brilliant left edge of South Sydney Rabbitohs, and we think Cody Walker, we think Latrell Mitchell, we think about the guy finishing them off, Alex Johnson. And obviously we know how great Dane Gagai is, but we always think Origin Gagai. It's been the opposite this year. He's had his best club season, I believe. And I think he needs to be credited with being able to make stuff happen by himself. There's been some great individual tries. Sometimes it's not doing anything. And I mean that kind of in the sense that, look, there's a reason why that left edge is most lethal. And sometimes he doesn't touch the ball. He just knows, he has a great understanding with his teammates around him. He's been able to react to great instinctive players like Cody Walker, which is an underrated trait at times. And yeah, if you're looking at shit and then you actually sit down and think about the most consistent centres this year, he's right up there. Him and Matt Burton, for me, stand out on the left edge. People will talk about Joey Manu, but I think Joey Manu actually consistently, doesn't get a lot of action a lot of the time. Might not be part of his fault, but yeah, I think he's been fantastic. And I always wondered what his best position was. I thought sometimes why he delivered so well in the Origin arena wasn't, I think he did just get a sense of, energy, but I felt like when he got the wing, there was only one option and one option only. A lot of the times it was just to run as hard as he could and create, where sometimes at centre, I think, is he a playmaker? Can he create for others? Is he just better just getting the ball and doing whatever? Where at centre, has he got too many decisions to make and, gets caught in between? But yeah, he's been really great. And obviously he's probably benefiting from being on a team that is getting good go forward. But I've been really impressed by Dane Gagai this year. Any thoughts in particular? He's one of those guys that his form probably speaks for himself this year. But if probably is more comparison to the left edge, because obviously you got a top try scorer and Cody Walker and Latrell that are just superstars of this game.
Yeah, I think he summed it up pretty well. The only thing I'll add to it is he's another one of those players that are off contract at the end of this year and hasn't been signed up yet, which is pretty crazy to think. And I always think with these sorts of players, you sit back and you go, do I want my club to sign him? Would I want my club to sign him? And would I be happy with it? And the answer to all those questions at the moment would be yes. So I definitely do rate him. I think he's right up there. I think a lot of people rate him unfairly, as you mentioned, because of how good he has been at an Origin level. But as you said, this year it's been the opposite. He's been quiet in Origin, which I think has a lot to do with who he's up against. And they're two of probably the form players of the comp. But yeah, he's a good player. Want him at my club. Would love Parra to sign him. But yeah.
I'll just make a comment, just to sum that point up. If you said 2 years ago the Broncos and Knights are looking to re-sign Dane Gagai, now he might have just left the Rabbitohs, but you know what I mean. Like if they were looking to get him, I would think no. Now, yeah, like even though yes, he's 2 years older.
I think that's the Wayne Bennett effect as well. Similar to what Craig Bellamy has at your club, is that Wayne Bennett will kick out individuals, and I think this year he's chosen Latrell. I think he's chosen Gagai as well, and maybe one or two others. But he's really worked with them, and he's probably started this last year with Gagai, but really worked with him individually. It looks like, and they've just really fed off it, and they just improved both as people on and off the field, and just how they carry themselves. I think Gagai used to always get in that niggle as well, and I used to hate him. I couldn't stand the bloke, but I think he's calmed that down a lot this year as well. So it's as if he's been told, or he's looked at stuff over maybe the off season and thought, when I'm actually getting in that, it's taking me away from what I can do. Let me just sit back this year, focus on what I can do, and it's really worked for him.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. I've been really impressed with, and I'm just a bit disappointed that funny enough, hasn't translated to Origin footy this year. And your last and final one, Joel?
Last one is Satili Tupanui, or Tupanua.
Great.
And look, I think at the time when Roosters fans, and I think as footy fans, when they lost Cordner, and they got probably a bit anxious and thought, no, this is a bit earlier than we anticipated losing this guy, and this is going to really impact our edges for the next couple of years. But they've timed this guy perfectly. I've watched him this year so far. Lately, he has been off a week or two with injuries and stuff, in and out a little bit. But at the start of the year, he was sensational, and he's a really damaging, hard ball running second rower. He's one of those types that just 5 out, it's so hard to stop him. He's so good leg speed wise, and he just doesn't stop. He's a real good motor. Look, I don't know the right way to say it. I was sort of thinking about it as you were speaking before, but you don't want to lose Cordner. But I tell you what, this guy, he's not Cordner-esque, but he's almost a like-for-like replacement because he's younger. He suits the rules probably a bit more than what Cordner would have done, if people can sort of understand where I'm coming from here. But he's just, I really rate him. I think he's right up there, but just at the moment in that star-studded team that's still there, and with all the talk about who they've lost, I think most people have forgotten about him. And I like to watch him play. He's also good at setting up tries as well. He'll make a half break, got a good offload, and a good passing game for a second row.
Yeah, I think I've been really impressed with how he's been able to obviously show off like his explosive talents, but then also being able to be a part of that. You know, like we just mentioned with the Storm, just being able to still do those little things, being able to fundamentally be strong and just fill a role that's needed. Understanding that he doesn't have to bust a tackle every time. Even though he is very capable of probably doing it more often than he has done, if asked upon him, if he was in like a team that needed him to do so, he might need to. But yeah, he's been great, and it'll be interesting to see how his career progresses, as in like the accolades he receives. He's a guy that I think, I'm glad you brought him up, and I brought him up at the very, very start of the season as my underrated second rower heading into the season. Because, he's got a lot of talent, and I'm grateful that he is a part of a system like the Roosters.
He's a Kiwi, isn't he?
What was that, sorry, mate?
He's a Kiwi, isn't he?
He's represented Tonga.
Okay.
And I don't know if he's eligible for New Zealand. Good question. I'll be picking that. If he is, he'll be somehow fit in my World Cup.
If not, then Tonga's just getting stronger and stronger. So that's a bit of a scary thought. All the talk's about Samoa at the moment, but I'll tell you what, Tonga's got a good side still.
Yep, exactly, man. And Tonga's been there, done that. They've been Aussie, they've been New Zealand. So even though the idea of Samoa is great, we still, until those players commit, which, it's not all on them. I know there's a bit of the politics going around, yeah, well, I'm still putting Tonga of that, the high pedestal just because we've seen it. Yeah. And yeah, we'll finish off with there's one guy, but I'm going to wrap two in here because I can. But a little guy that's just, and I thought he was really on the Queensland radar until he got injured. He's a guy that when he was at the Tigers, he got told, everyone said he was one of the most underrated players in the game, that I believe he got overrated. When that happens, it happens often. And because I'm thinking, yes, but I don't think he is one of the best fullbacks in the game still, like he's still one of the bottom end ones. And he's gone to the Titans and filled a role brilliantly on the wing, and he just makes stuff happen, even though his size tells him that he shouldn't be. And that's Corey Thompson. Been incredible, meeting making, been able to create stuff for others, even though he is the furthest one on the sideline. He's been able to duck in, and that's probably been credited because of the abilities he's been able to show as a fullback as well. I think I don't think he is the huge the number, like the sole reason, I should say, of the Titans drop off of form. But when he was out, they weren't as great without him. And yeah, I think we are quick to forget, he was really in Queensland talks. And if he was healthy going around, obviously Xavier Coates didn't have that, even Felt didn't have a great game one either. He would have been, if he kept on trending like he was, I think he definitely would have been given a shot for sure. So yeah, and I'll just go to another little guy that I wanted to fit in some, and I haven't watched the Sharks play much, but I've always been impressed with him and didn't really know what to think of him as a player, because I remember him being a backup half for the Rabbitohs, and he's come on, he's filled on a bit on the wing and centre. He's been a little bit of Mr. Fix-It, and Connor Tracy. A weird, interesting player to watch, but I think he's created great value, and he's one of those guys that why I kind of compare him and Thompson. It's just like, how did he do that? Like, he done, one of those people you just assume won't be able to do too much, but yeah, he's been able to make stuff happen. So yeah, two guys that have been really impactful, even though like the old saying, like, show size doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, every year we seem to be thinking the little guy at time's over, but these little guys are staying on, and there's still room for them. These new rules as well are helping them, and the little guys, they've been both playing well. Both initials are CT, which is a bit weird, but
yeah, they're on purpose.
Yeah, well, Connor Tracy gets to play in the halves this week, so we'll get to see him back in his natural. But tell you what, that's a really hard thing to change from. You're naturally a half, and you've been stuck on the wing. A lot of people probably don't understand, but that's a really hard thing to change, even in an off season. I don't think that's still enough time. So Tracy's done really well, because he's not a big guy by any means, and it's probably only put him a couple of kilos since he was told to move from the halves to the back line. So he hasn't had much time to transition at all. So good on him.
Yeah, and I think, because I just remember he was named on the wing at the start of the year. I'm like, that is the guy that filled in for the Rabbitohs when they had a few injuries last year in halves, and double checked. And so it's going to be interesting how he goes. And even though they've got Braden Trindle and Matt Moylan there, it'll be interesting to see if he's a potential halves option for to partner Hines next year, because I assume they'll keep Kennedy there at fullback. But I don't know. This could be an insight to see the potential one of the potential halves for next year. So
that could be a topic for another time, because I've got some thoughts about that. They're a bit mixed up at the moment. The Sharks.
What's that for? What in particular?
Oh, the Sharks and next year and what they look like. I think they're a bit mixed up. They're a bit all over the shop at the moment.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah, there's promising signs, but there's a few little decisions where I think, okay, yeah. Anyway, like you said, topic for another day. But hey, Joel, once again, mate, really appreciate you coming on. You're not obliged to do this, but you're always keen to help out, and it's always a pleasure talking footy with you, mate.
No worries at all, mate. Always happy to come on and help you out, talk a bit of footy. It's always good to just get away from everyday life and have a bit of a yarn and about something that we both love. And hopefully a lot of people are starting to enjoy it and get more views and more follows and everything like that. So Keep doing the good work. You're one of the better channels on on social media, basically, I think. So I should have a lot more followers than you do.
Oh, I appreciate it, mate. Followers are always cool, but it's cool just to have a bit of a community, and hey, it'll grow as time goes, and people like yourself definitely will help that as well. So, like if you haven't already, guys, check out Joel League of Inches, and I'll catch you guys next week.